just received.
All the way from wherever we come from, we're here in Africa, in Mauritius. Even the main event fighters, Shahid, Torres, and Nkosi, have also traveled a long way to be here. And it's all happening here in Mauritius in 2 days' time. And we've spoken about it many, many times about who's going to win the fight, who won the first fight, who won the second fight, what's going to happen in the third fight. But it never ends. One thing I kept thinking about is that keeps me up at night is, well, I hope it's not a no contest on the third fight. You know, we can't do this anymore. You know, we need to have. We call this a final chapter. It has to be the final chapter.
This is it.
This is it. That's it. Nothing more. You know, but
trilogy is over right here.
But who's going to write the final chapter and what's going to be the story that's going to be written? I think there's so many things coming out right now. I mean, when we look at the odds of the first fight, the second fight, and the third fight, all the way from -600 favorite Shahid Torres in the first fight, and now he's somewhere around -200 something underdog. And how long has it been since the first fight to the third fight?
The odds for me are entirely immaterial, for a simple reason that this fight comes down to the why. Why do you want to win this fight? Why are you engaging in this fight? Why are you putting yourself in this position? So statistics and everything for me, and I'm a statistics guy. I'm all about the numbers, I'm all about percentages, but for me this comes down to the anomalous factor of why. Why do you want this fight? Why does Shahid Torres want this fight? Why does Nkosi need to win this fight? That is the biggest factor for me. Nkosi, for legacy, for continuity as a champion. For Shahid Torres, it really comes down to, and I say this with love in my heart, it comes down to relevance. If Shahid Torres does not win this fight, is he still relevant in the bantamweight division? It's a question I pose to you, gentlemen.
He will always be relevant in the flyweight division.
I mean, I get it, but we're still talking about the former bantamweight champion.
On a contentious decision.
Controversial at that.
Really controversial? I don't know.
For me,
it was a split decision.
Right. Split decision, and we all love both guys. I mean,
Yeah.
Lay it on the table as it is. But the first fight was definitely controversial. I personally had Nkosi winning. You know, I look at this now, the third fight, it's kind of how you have a little brother and their big brother.
Yeah.
And you grow up and you always respect your big brother. Everything he does is perfect, right? And you realize, my big brother can take on anybody in the world. And you get to a point where you realize, my big brother isn't so bad anymore.
Right.
I think I can take my big brother.
Is little brother becoming the big brother?
Little brother becoming the big brother, that's how I see it. And not to take anything away from Shorty, but Nkosi has that confidence now that he never had before. He has 2 training camps that he's never had before.
Great point.
He has the athleticism, the size, the will, like you were talking about, the why.
The why, yeah.
I mean, this man is hungry. Shorty is one of the most intelligent fighters on the planet.
So cerebral, yeah.
So cerebral. You can't put another fighter in his place who is going to dictate methodically what he wants to do to his opponent. But is it enough, Brave Nation? Is that enough to carry out and get this third fight in the trilogy? I don't know. You know, you look at Nkosi and you see 2 camps. You see how he's grown. It's just been amazing how he's, evolved.
Yeah.
Right in front of our eyes, we've seen a superstar budding, kind of like a Kubanza. Right. King Kong is just, same type of thing. They're fellow countrymen. They're training together at Soma with Joseph Webby. I mean, these guys have unlimited.
What a coach, by the way.
What an incredible coach.
Shout out to Webby.
And these guys have unlimited scary potential. And that's what we're talking about now. Is that going to be something that Shorty can deal with? and we all know his IQ in fighting. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's off the chain. But is that enough?
But do you think that the question is, do you think there should have been a trilogy fight after the last fight?
Oh, yeah. But the big question for me is, sports always begin at zero. If two people are sprinting against each other, or two cars, whatever the sport is, they start at zero. The huge question in my mind is, because this is fighting, they're not starting at zero. The question is, since the last fight, who has evolved the most? If Shorty stays exactly where he is, and Nkosi stays exactly where he is, the fight repeats. It's not a fight, but this is mixed martial arts. And the reason you have a fight is you don't know who's gonna win. And the big question in my head is, how much has each fighter evolved? Now, Shorty is comfortable. He came from extreme poverty in the United States of America, but he is comfortable now. So most people would say he's not going to evolve a lot. But
Does comfort breed complacency?
no, because, and it sounds trite, but I saw a picture of him. We're friends on the social network about 6 weeks ago, and he had a six-pack. He had a six-pack 6 weeks ago. And normally, he doesn't have a six-pack. I'm not trying to be rude, but he doesn't have a six-pack. He had a six-pack. I think Shorty Torres, I know, as a stone fact, this is the biggest fight in Shorty Torres's life. In his entire life, this is it. This is his do or die moment. This is rise or retire moment. And he's taken it incredibly seriously. He's got a six-pack. But the flip side of that is, I spent a lot of time recently with Yusuf Webby, Som MMA in Bali. And he said the difference between Nkosi and Ndebele from the first fight to the second fight, he said the second fight to the third fight is even higher. So who's going to win? I don't know.
You made a statement there, rise or retire. There is so much gravity in that. So will he be the phoenix that rises from the flames of the first defeat? Or retire? Do you genuinely believe he's done if he does not win this fight? You said it, Kirik, rise or retire.
Yeah, I do.
Wow.
I think this is the, anyone who loves, anybody who knows Shorty Torres loves a man. And I'm saying this with love. I think this is the biggest fight of his life. And I think if it does not go his way, which it could, this is fighting, it can go any way, I think he retires.
Wow.
And that's a statement that it's the biggest fight for both of these guys.
Absolutely.
Nkosi, this is the biggest fight of his life. He is there now, and he is there to silence all doubters that he is the true champion. He's absolutely huge for a bantamweight. I mean,
Nkosi is really going to be a true champion once he wins his fight, right? He has to win this
He's
fight.
coming in, the reigning, defending, undisputed for the first time in his life. At 29 years old, he is literally just etching into the precipice of his prime. Allegedly, he is 5'10". I'm 5'11". This dude's taller than me.
right, he's
Yeah.
6 feet.
At a bantamweight, as much as I love Shorty Torres, I'm struggling to see, basing off the previous fight.
Let me ask you a question on this.
Go
Sorry.
ahead.
I want to ask you a question. Genuinely, think about it. Forget about what we've seen in the last two fights. Let me ask you, if Shorty Torres was able, we spoke about the growth, right? We spoke about who's growing more,
Right.
fight after fight. But if Shorty Torres was able to unlock his complete potential, everything that we know he's capable of doing. When you look at the grappling side, when you look at the wrestling side, when you look at the experience side, all of them, if we were able to unlock Shorty Torres' complete potential of everything that he was and he's shown in his career, if he was able to unlock that finally because he had a challenge, a career challenge for the first time in his life, and he knows that he's going to lose everything from retiring maybe to being never going to be a champion and the difficulty of coming back to getting the title shot, all of that, whatever the reason it might be, if he was able to unlock his full potential, do you think 100% Shorty, I'm not talking about a new Shorty, not a grown Shorty, the Shorty that could bring in everything that we know he already could, is that Shorty capable, or do you think that if that Shorty fought and Nkosi that you saw in the last fight, who wins that fight?
Unequivocally, yes, a focused Shorty Torres would win that fight. However, what is his priority right now? That is the question that needs to be asked. A focus shorty is a world beater, unequivocally so, unquestionably so. However, what is his priority right now? Where does his head lie? Is it being a world champion? Or I know for a fact he has a lot of different business ventures. So it comes down to me, it's like, where do his priorities lie? Is it being a world champion, or is it being a self-sustaining businessman? You cannot have a foot in both camps in these situations. We know this with MMA. MMA is the most unforgiving sport in the world. If you're not all in, you may as well be all out. It's that simple.
No, definitely. Well, we've seen, I mean, to be fair, I mean, we're looking at two of these athletes, like you mentioned. We've seen Nkosi having last two camps in Soma Fight Club in Bali, and we've seen him actually take that effort to go and develop his training and get better at what he's doing. And that's fantastic, and that we've seen that improvement. But we've seen the same thing Shahid Torres do this time is to go to Las Vegas and fight Extreme Couture's gym, train there for the first time, have a dedicated team completely focused on himself, and that's the priority. He's got a team around him. And for me, to be honest, it's been it's somehow shocking that it's the first time, because you should have been doing that 2-3 years back. I mean, you had all the resources and everything else. You should be doing that 2-3 years back. And I think that shows that it was a great ride, that he didn't have to do that. Today he realized that, oh, hold on, I got to do something. You know, I got to make sure that I have to utilize every resource I have and make sure that I get a team around me. I am fighting for the World Championship title. I'm not just going to go and defend a title against somebody. I'm going to fight against someone who's beaten me, you know. So he's got a team around him.
Does this shorty have another level?
Yeah.
What do you think?
For me, I think that I just want him to showcase the existing level that we've seen in him. I think that level is one of the best in the world. We've seen that against Amir Labazi. We've seen that against some of the best fights in the world. That today, for me, I'm not talking about the shorty that I have today, but the shorty that we knew from the amateur scene all the way to become the world champion. For me, that is the best bantamweight fighter in the world. And I was really looking at who can come and cause trouble for him, and it had to be someone special.
Yeah.
Right. It had to be someone special in all ways, not just mentally special. He had to be special in something, in all the ways. That you had to have like Phil said, it had to be a 5'10", 5'11" bantamweight coming in, who knew how to use his range and reach and his striking to the best of his ability, who had to be strong enough to be training with the likes of Kubanza, and that should be the teammate, plus have the hunger to be the best in the world. And you had to get that whole mix, and that's someone special would have been the only one who could have caused problem for Shorty. And for me, I still believe that Shorty's real problem is himself. I've seen the last fight, sure, I still believe that Shorty's real problem is himself. And yes, Nkosi is the nemesis, and Nkosi is going to tear away everything and rip his soul and take his heart away from him.
He's the final boss.
Absolutely, yeah, the final boss, and he's not going to have anything left of the fighting career. You want to take everything away from Shorty. That's going to happen. This is what's going to happen in 2 days' time, and Nkosi is coming for it. 100%. Shorty is standing there, and it is time. Shorty, there's no more time. There's 2 days left. You are at the finish line. You have to make sure you're going to make that sprint. What are you going to do? And this is the situation. So it's all about, for me, I still believe that it's about himself, and he has to make that call. But one thing's for sure, that in mixed martial art, you can't make that call 2 days before. It had to be worked, or you had to have that mentality throughout the training camp. And I think that Shorty has put that training camp with Extreme Couture Gym, with his lifestyle coach, keeping his personal life aside. We've not seen him speak more about it this time. We haven't seen it. We've seen a different Shorty Torres this time. We've seen a Shorty Torres who's focused on his professional career. And that is what makes me so excited to see that is that Shorty Torres. And we've said that every single time we've had this fight. I mean, it's the 5th time we're trying to make this fight. It's the 3rd time we're having this fight.
3rd time in what, 10 months?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a very
Less
short,
than a year.
very short period of time for a trilogy, gentlemen. Very short period
Right.
of time.
Oh, yeah.
And hats off to Shorty for going for it, for saying, I want that trilogy fight. I need that trilogy fight. And if you look at Shorty Torres' career, he's really rolled over guys for most of his career. He had a 33-fight win streak at one time. I mean, this man has just been on another level, and this is really the first time that he's going into a fight as an underdog.
Yeah.
So we're going to find out which Shorty is coming, and is he going to stay and be relevant, like you said, Or is he going to go off and into the sunset and had a great career and say, I did what I could, but it's time for me to go?
But we still didn't talk about one thing that I want to really ask. That we talk about the last fight, Shorty lost the fight, and for me, I look at it and I say, it's the same thing that happened in the first fight as well. You saw the first 2 rounds, and Nkosi was out there striking, kneeing, everything was landing on Shorty, even the first round. But the second round, there was a slight difference, is that you had a cut before, and that scar and the cut opened up. Now, there's a lot of things that we have to discuss about where it is that, Shorty, you're not an amateur. You're a guy who knows that you have a cut. You gotta have better head movement. You need to keep that as one of the risks in your fight, that you know what's going to happen. You didn't have to start slow anymore. You didn't have to use the first rounds as warm-up, as he said that he likes to do. None of that should have been actually done. He made a mistake. Shorty made a strategical mistake in the second fight for sure, and that was completely on him. But how much is that cut a factor? 1. 2, we spoke about 3 fights in 10 months.
Yeah.
What is the chances that cuts open again?
This is a conversation Kirik and I had previously. There is scar tissue there that if I'm Nkosi and if I'm Yusuf Wehbi, his coach, I am targeting right from the get-go. The trajectory with which Shorty has to land a jab is pretty much the same trajectory with which Nkosi has to land an elbow. And now if Nkosi in those close quarters, when Torres has to advance to close the distance. It's quite simple. He cannot fight Nkosi at range.
Yeah.
He quite simply cannot. But in closing that distance, he's leaving himself vulnerable to a short elbow. If that opens up again, we're looking at ladder, rinse, repeat.
I got something to add. I love Shorty Torres.
We
love
all
his
do.
coach, man.
This is why it's so difficult,
But
because we all-
even if the best Shorty Torres shows up, there's an X factor here, and that is where we are. That is Africa. Nkosi Ndebele is the joy, the honor, the pride that he has for becoming the first world champion to defend a title, African champion, to defend a title in Africa, is almost inexplicable. I've been spending time with him. I've looked at him, and it's the joy, the honor, the pride that he gets is almost magical. And even if the greatest Shorty Torres that we have ever seen shows up, the power of Africa rising up, and Nkosi Ndebele may bring him up to not the next level, but the level above that.
Yeah, they're definitely. And you can see that from the attitude and the fight week we've been through. I mean, they've been already started the mind games. I've been hearing that Shorty's walking around with his title belt, and I think that he's really trying to,
And Nkosi left a note at, I think it was the poster signings.
Yeah.
And Nkosi left a note on the table. This belt is not for short people. I do not touch. That was pointed, and that also tells me that our champion has legitimate confidence. And when you are that good and you have that skill set and you have confidence in your own ability, big man's feeling himself.
Oh yeah, he knows he's a champion.
He's feeling himself big time. Yeah.
We're actually seeing Nkosi come out there, and that's
He's walking around like James Brown.
Yeah. And that's a scary part where he's coming and like you said, it's a different level where he's there and he's like, this is not me coming to prove myself. Like the last 2 fights, he was like, I'm there. I'm going to show everybody that I'm the champion. I was the champion. And this was all. Now he's.
I'm the champion. You show me. You show me what you have.
Yeah, very obvious. I am the champion, and he walks like a champion, talks like a champion, acts like a champion, and he's having the confidence of a champion, and he's trying to put that mindset into his opponent and to tell him that, listen, I'm going to bully you. You're going to get bullied. You know why? Because I'm the champion.
100%.
And that's what's going to happen, and you will laugh about it, and you will enjoy it, and you'll be proud of a champion bullying you. And that's the different mentality. I mean, it's a different level of what's looking at. I think that it definitely, this is going to be amazing 2 athletes with fantastic skills, so much talent, different styles of fighting. That's the clash of different styles, experience, the lineage they come from the amateur level all the way to professional level. Both have been Bantamweight champions in Brave Combat Federation. both have a history
Both
of
being IMAF champions too.
IMF champions
Yeah.
as well. And then you look at Shorty becoming one of those athletes who's started as a foundation of where Brave has started from. He was a founding member of KHK,
Yeah.
while Nkosi is the only homegrown champion of Brave Combat Federation.
His entire pro career fought with Brave. That's incredible.
Yeah. And all those history colliding together, and beyond that, we're talking about the mental warfare that's going to be happening here within themselves and between each other. I think this is the most complete fight, and for me, there is so much variables that could affect this fight. It's not just about who's good and who's bad. And I think that for both this fight, they do have to realize that this is something of the highest level of competition as a human being they're going to face in life. And this is something that, win or lose, they can take away so much from this. And for me as a fight fan, it's exciting to study it, to see it, and to wish what's going to happen. So even before we talk about anything else, I have to, you guys have so much more knowledge about the fights and the insights of it. You have to tell me what you think and how do you see the fight going. Kirik, what do you think is going to happen? Is it going to be a 3-round fight? Is it going to go to the distance? Is there going to be takedowns happening? Is Nkosi going to open that cut? What do you see when you visualize that fight happening in 48 hours' time?
Thank you so much for starting with Kirik, by the way.
Nkosi and Ndebele, second half of round 2. That's my prediction.
And
Hi.
second half of round 2, you think he's going to outstrike him? He's going to finish him because of the cut, or you're going to actually drop the guy?
I think he's going to cut him to pieces, to ribbons, with the elbows as Shorty tries to come in. He knows, as a stone fact, Shorty always starts slow. Shorty's not going to start slow this fight. He's not. He knows it's part of his makeup. It has not worked out well for him, as we've all seen. He knows Shorty's going to come wrestling for him. And knowing everything in mixed martial arts is reads. If you know what your opponent's going to do, it's an easy fight. You know what they're going to do. If you know where the hand's coming from, you can counter it. He knows Shorty's going to come out hard with the wrestling, and he's going to counter because Shorty doesn't have the reach advantage. He's got to get from A to B to C to Z to Z, and he's inside. And Shorty is going to catch 3, 4 elbows on the way in each time, and the 15th, 16th elbow that lands, it's over. And I predict it's going to be the second half of the second round.
I'm not disinclined to agree with you, which is rare for you and I, but I believe that Nkosi will, with the greatest respect, beat Jose Torres up for the first round and then choose whenever he wants to finish him in the second. And that breaks my heart a little bit to say, because obviously we always talk about how much we love Shorty. He's our friend. But going against a 6 foot, 135 pound behemoth, can he negate that range without being punished? Genuinely, I don't think so.
And he's fighting an African in Africa.
Exactly.
I can't minimize that.
And also the exponential improvements we have seen in Nkosi during his time at Summer under Yusuf Webe. As far as I'm aware, we are looking at the best possible version of Nkosi and Ndebele. The best, for my money, the best possible version of Nkosi and Ndebele beats the best possible version of Jose Shorty Torres.
Yeah, that would be, yeah.
It's a big claim, I know that.
Yeah.
And it's tough because Shorty's like the captain, right? He is the team captain.
Yeah.
He's the guy. We all look at it Brave. We've all loved him from Brave 1.
We're not saying it because we want to say it.
No, we're saying
this
because
is us trying
we-
to be objective.
We have to be objective. That's
Yeah.
what we do, right? And that's why people, respect us, because we'll always give our honest opinion. I just feel that I agree with Phil in the aspect of Nkosi has grown so much. He's grown in front of our eyes. Like, it's very rare you can see a fighter grow in front of your eyes and go,
He's been better every time we've seen him.
wow, from
Every
1
time
year
we've seen him,
ago,
yeah.
from 2
Every
years
single
ago,
time,
yeah.
from 4 years ago, this guy is unbelievably different in his style, in his confidence, how he does things in the cage, how he now assumes going in that he will win and be the victor.
Yeah.
And he backs that up every time. I love both men, but I have to say, I think Nkosi takes it within 2 rounds.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a show. I think he's going to make a statement. I think he's going to prove that he is the best in the world, and that fighting in front of his hometown of Africa is going to propel him to new heights, which he didn't need, by the way. This guy is driven on his own. But that's how I see the fight going. I just see too big, too athletic, too tall, too long, just too strong.
Too much.
And too much. I mean, Shorty took him down 6 times in that first fight, which was incredible. But you saw from the second fight and now expect the third. That's not going to happen in my book. I could be wrong, but that's how I feel.
No, it totally makes sense, and that's where you see Shorty becoming the underdog, right? I mean, definitely everybody looks at
Maybe for the first time in his career?
First time, I think.
First time in his career.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, the funny thing is, this is the fight where he had the biggest. He was the biggest favorite in his whole career. Was in this trilogy,
Right.
and he was biggest underdog in his career in the same trilogy against Nkosi. I mean, that shows how much of his life's career has been this fight. This opponent has been a big part of his career. But for me, again, I think 100% Nkosi have grown every single fight. He's been a different fighter, no doubt about it.
Correct.
No argument. I think Nkosi is a fighter that very hard for a lot of fighters to actually find a way to beat him. I don't think there's much of strategies that can actually be better than Nkosi. It doesn't exist. But for me, I'm just putting one thing on the table, that I don't think I've seen Nkosi clearly beat Shorty Torres. I've seen Nkosi beat Shorty Torres in a round and completely dominate a round. And I've seen that. I've seen that in the first fight. I've seen Nkosi dominate a round, but for me personally, I don't think Nkosi won that fight. And I know that we disagree with that, and I think that Shorty won that fight. The second fight, I've seen Nkosi dominate Shorty in the first 2 rounds, and Shorty got a cut. Shorty lost the fight 100%, and I think Nkosi beat him, and getting the cut open doesn't mean that you don't take away anything from Shorty. Nkosi, I mean, sorry. Absolutely. But I'm yet to see a 5-fight round where I see that, yes, Nkosi have completely beaten the former champion, and he is the world champion today. And I'm yet to see that, and that's where I am. And I know that the first fight was what it was, and we were asking that question of why Shorty was the way he was in the beginning rounds, and he should have started better. And he said that I like to warm up in the first rounds, I like to start slow, which doesn't make any sense to me, and I don't think that's a smart decision. But in any case, the second fight he went the same way, and it cost him everything. You know, it cost him his title, it cost him his world championship, and it cost him everything that we're sitting today, and the whole world thinks that he's gonna not win that fight. And it's very clear that we've seen the domination. But on the third fight, if Shorty comes up and thinks that I know what my mistakes are and nobody's going to question Shorty's knowledge, his IQ, and his coach's knowledge about the science of fighting, and they're definitely going to identify that. And if we don't come and implement those, it's going to be the same story with Nkosi, and there's nothing else you can do about it. But I think if Shorty comes out and he becomes the fighter that we know he is, and I'm not saying, for me, at this point, 100% Shorty's going to beat Nkosi if he comes up at the best Shorty he can be, or we've seen before. With every knowledge that he has from the grappling and wrestling skills and understanding strikers, Shorty is not new to fighting and training with tall opponents. Believe me, I've seen that training with. We've had a camp, or we had a KHK camp, but I've seen we had this circle of rotation of fighters training with each other, and we had myself, when I used to be a fighter, myself, Eldar Eldarov, Hamza Kohiji, Khabib Nurmagomedov, Islam Makhachev, Frankie Edgar, Alex Soto, and Shorty Torres were the guys who were rotating with each other.
Right.
What was the last fight you seen the dog and Shorty?
That's a good question. No,
I love Shorty. I'll propose that to Shorty's my friend. But I'm struggling to remember the last time I really saw the dog in him. That get down, get gritty, do everything you have to do to win the fight. He dominated Amir Abazi. Yes, it was clinical. But when was the last time you really saw the dog in Shorty?
And that's a good point as we go to the trilogy, the evolution of both guys.
It's what we need to see.
We've seen that Nkosi can hurt Shorty, but have we seen that Shorty can really hurt Nkosi? We haven't seen that yet.
Oh yeah.
So that's a big intangible on the floor right now. I mean, Nkosi knows that. In his mind, he's going in thinking this guy can give me whatever he wants and it's not going to stop me. I'm going straight through him.
And Nkosi made him quit. Let's call it what it was. Nkosi made
I wouldn't call it quit. I mean,
He said no mas.
that
That was literally the brave version.
No, you don't say
That was
no.
literally the brave version of a no mas moment. He looked at the referee.
No
he made
mas
eye
is
contact.
when you don't want to fight. You
He
got a
made
body
eye
shot.
contact. Dude, he literally looked at the referee and said,
He couldn't see the referee.
Couldn't see.
He
wait,
couldn't see the referee.
he could see
What are you
it.
talking about?
He could see
I thought
it.
he
He could
was
see it
cutting
off
you
the
out.
look. He could see it off the look in the direction of the referee.
No mas.
and
No
said
mas is when you
Was that
when
was
you,
that a no mas moment?
Absolutely not. You quit.
Dude.
No, you do no mas when you get hurt and you're like, oh, it's hurting me. I don't want to
So
fight
when you
anymore.
look at a referee and go, that's no mas.
No mas implies you get a liver shot and you're like, oh, it hurts too much. That's very different from I can't see.
What does no mas mean?
No more.
No, okay.
Exactly. No more.
Oh, I thought you were asking.
Shorty Torres looked in the direction of the referee and did this.
Because he couldn't see.
Exactly. No mas.
But I'll tell you this.
Yes or no? Kirik, yes or no? No mas.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I
Absolutely
agree
not.
with Phil on this.
No, absolutely
I
not.
agree with you on this. No mas is no mas.
No more is no more.
Yeah,
If
no,
you intimate to the referee you
Whether
could
you
not
can see it or
continue,
not.
that is the definition of no mas.
sure. But at the same
Sure,
time,
so you're agreeing with me.
no.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Thank you, sure, thank you.
Linguistically.
All right, no, talk to me.
Yeah, let me explain.
Sí o no?
No,
En español.
We're not in Colombia right now. We're in Mauritius, bro.
All right, I'll ask you this. Okay? So we've seen a lot of people quit, whatever it is. Now, would you say that if someone breaks their leg, Anderson Silva, for example, broke his leg, falls on the ground. I'm not saying he quit.
Did
He said
Shorty,
no
did
mas.
Shorty Torres break his leg?
He didn't.
No, you're talking about an anomaly here. It's not specifically the fight.
Absolutely. Because when you have a drop of blood going to your eye, spreads over, you're literally blind. You're actually seeing that. You're actually seeing Kirik. That's all you're going to be seeing. It's going to be completely red. There's nothing you can actually see.
Fair.
When you have a person who's as smart as Shorty Torres to stand there and say, you know what, I'm blind.
Yeah.
I'm blind.
I'm blind. I can't do any more. I can do no more.
No, I'm blind.
Therefore, no mas.
No, I'm blind. It's not my feelings.
Right.
What I feel, I feel pain, I feel distress, I feel stressed, I feel scared. None of that. It's not my feelings. It's physically, I'm not capable because I am blind.
So did he intimate to the referee?
It's almost like a fractured leg. It's almost
It
like
is
a fractured
not
leg.
like a fractured
It is
leg.
like a fractured leg. You're walking blind.
That is a
Absolutely, you're walking blind.
Let me talk history. Roberto Duran said no mas because he was getting hit too much.
Right.
And
Against
because
Sugar
Are you
Ray
saying
Ray.
and
in
because-
the
and
last
because
fight
his
you don't think
stomach-
Shorty was getting hit
and
too much?
because his
He
and
did.
because
He
his
was.
stomach hurt
But he wasn't blind.
and because he got out-minded, and that was not, the no mas reference comes from a very specific case, and that case is not this one.
And for the
Politely
record, we have to make this clear. Shorty Torres is not a no mas guy. You're absolutely right. Whether what happened in the fight or not, he's a smart guy. He realized he couldn't see. He realized that his career could be in danger from
Yeah.
taking more punishment, and he made the only choice he could.
But I get the idea. I mean, that's what a lot of people don't talk about this, is because, to be honest, Shorty did tell the referee and he waved his hand.
Yeah.
And this is exactly why a lot of people think he quit. But a lot of people don't even know that what it is to have blood in your eye. You're literally
Correct, yeah.
blind.
Fair,
you know, and it's impossible to see. And at that point, you're thinking, I can go another 30 seconds or 10 seconds or 20 seconds, and I'm going to have a head kick or a knee come in, and I'm going to be flat out knocked out. And that's it. That's God knows what that's going to take me into my career, you know, where that's going to go. So I think that a smartest decision when you break your leg or you go blind or you have something that physically you're not able to do, you should be thinking of it smartly. And we've seen a lot of fighters who went the other way around, and then decided to continue for whatever reason, and which is exactly why we think that that is not the smartest decision for athletes to not realize when it is not the best time to continue, and they still do it. But I think, which is exactly why I feel like that cut is going to be a big factor in the third fight. I don't know if he could open this cut again. It's not been 2 to 3 years. I don't know even if in 2 to 3 years the scar tissues will be fully recovered.
5 months.
5 months is a short time.
Short
Yeah.
time.
Short
Scar
time.
tissue to
Your
recover.
mind might be there, but the body is not.
Yeah,
absolutely,
The
yeah.
skin is not.
Yeah. You can't cheat time.
Yeah.
But hey,
But
we got
you,
3 to
you
1.
have to, again, you have to admire Shorty's courage to say, hey, I want this trilogy. Let's run it back. Is it ego or is it something that he knows from his fight IQ that we've talked about
Yeah.
that's saying, hey, I can get this guy. I
That's
really
what-
can take him out. So you never want to doubt a Shorty Torres,
Yeah, because
ever.
when you said that, when you made that point that Nkosi has never been hurt by Shorty as well, that's when you realize, because I was purely looking at it from a tactical, strategical perspective, right? But when you really think about it, yes, Shorty has not hurt Nkosi at all in the first fight or the second fight, definitely not, but in the first fight as well. So when you're looking at it on the third fight, for me, I'm like, yeah, I think there is a statement to be made by both these fighters. We're talking about the cut, we're talking about a split decision, we're talking about the beginning of the fight or as the fight goes forward, we need a decisive end. Yeah, a final chapter, we need an end.
And I don't think we've ever had a fight where we talked about winner takes all. I mean, this is truly winner takes all. I mean, the winner is going to propel himself into stardom that he's never even dreamed that he could attain. And the loser
Where do
could
they
go
go?
off into the shadows.
Where do they go?
And
Yeah.
never be heard from again.
Great
I
point,
mean,
Carlos.
it is full drama. It's about as dramatic a main event as we've ever had in Brave Combat Federation.
Oh, absolutely.
The world is waiting to see, and we are lucky to be having this event. Thank you to you and Sam Brett for putting this all together, and us in beautiful Mauritius to have this happen.
No, absolutely. And we're talking about 15 months of the story going on, and it's a lot of fighters are already getting fed up of this idea that I should 15 months of the same fight. I should be winning 3 fights and getting the title shot and making that walk to becoming the world champion. And you guys are continuing the story for 15 months, and that's the story of the co-main event. I mean, we're looking at Wende, who's sitting back and he's like, what is going on?
Right.
I get this guy out. Let me take him. Let me finish him. Let me get that belt. Let me take everything. These guys are having their great 15 months of everything. The whole world is talking about them. It's a bantamweight division. The biggest bantamweight division is the story of the toughest division in Brave Confederation is about Shorty and Nkosi. And I think Wende is sitting back and looking at it and saying that there's a list of people behind waiting to actually get that limelight, because this is the toughest division and we want to prove a point that we're the best, and you guys are enjoying that for the past 15 months and I want to take that. So for me, I think when we look at Wende, a lot of people say that he has a similar style, a very similar style, and but at a bantamweight division for Wende, he's, for me, fighting against a combat sambo world champion is equally a tough fight as much as the title fight, what's going to happen. For me, I think the co-main event, yes, Wende is in the limelight. He's the guy that feels like he needs to be next in the title shot.
It is a perfect opportunity for Khurshid Nazarov to take that limelight, to steal it. Yes, he's coming off 3.5 years of inactivity, but as you've rightly alluded to, he is an all-Asia combat sambo champion. He is a world combat sambo champion. He is 9-0 as a professional. If ever there was an opportunity for an incumbent #1 contender to steal the limelight, it's this fight.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And tell us a little, like, we've seen the history. I mean, when you hear the word combat sambo world champion, you take a step back and you're like, hold on. We've seen what combat sambo world champions can do in mixed martial art. It's no more a question of can they perform in mixed martial art. That's no more a question. We've seen what combat sambo world champions can do.
Fedor did okay. Fedor did okay, yeah.
It was okay, yeah. Not so bad.
Our very own Ikram Aliskerov was a combat sambo world champion.
Worked out well for him.
Yeah, it worked out pretty good for him.
Yeah,
So,
lucky.
so it really is a metric for your martial arts ability.
Yeah.
And I think the greatest sport transitionally to go from one sport to MMA is that of combat sambo.
Yeah.
I think the skill set involved in combat sambo is essentially MMA in a gi top and headgear. So I think if you accomplish great things in combat sambo, you will accomplish great things in MMA.
When they come from beating a Tajik fighter in his last fight?
Mutalibsho Akiborov, he beat by unanimous decision in his last fight. I can't quite remember where he was from, but he was from one of the Eastern European regions.
Okay. So somewhere in my head I was like, if that's going to be a back-to-back win over Tajik fighters, he's going to be it's going to be
hot
tough.
commodity.
Yeah, he's going to be the crazy hunter of Tajikistan, you know.
Tajik fighters,
and
yeah.
build up. But that's not going to be an easy fight. That's going to be a tough fight when we look at the co-main event. What do you see? I mean, have you noticed that he wants Nkosi's limelight? Where do you put Wende in the bantamweight division and his quality of as a fighter?
I want to take a step back from that and talk about something that to me is more important. I grew up in Africa. Nicholas Wende, Nkosi Ndebele are pioneers. And to me, it doesn't, honestly, when we look back on this, all of us, a decade, 20 years, 30 years from now, it's not going to matter because the most important thing that they're going to do for this sport is not win or lose for themselves. They are pioneers. They are showing the world what Africa has to offer. And it's going to be amazing. I do believe 20 years from now, Africa is going to dominate mixed martial arts. And it's going to dominate mixed martial arts because of what's going on in Brave Combat Federation. Brave Combat Federation is the most important mixed martial arts organization on the planet. It's leading in all regards. It's leading in terms of the number of countries you've been to. It's leading in terms of the weight divisions. So we don't have this horrible culture of extreme weight cutting. And it's leading in terms of bringing MMA to Africa and also bringing African MMA fighters all across the planet. So in the greater scheme of things, and it sounds horrible because I love all these guys, but it doesn't matter who wins or loses on Saturday night. What matters is these men are pioneers, and they're not just lifting up themselves, and they know it. I've talked to them about it. They're lifting up Africa.
Absolutely. And we see Kobanza do the same thing. I mean, I was always talking about that when Kobanza, he was like, when you have an event as significant as what Kirik mentioned, we're coming back to Africa, but even more importantly, this event is something more important than just hosting an event in Africa. It's let's say a story of what Brave Combat Federation has done for African fighters and for Africa in MMA. And today, with this event in Mauritius, is going to be a start of bringing the whole African mixed martial art community, from the federations, from the fighters, us as an organization, everyone coming together to realize that one dream of how we can build African MMA for the future and make sure that we have the best talent, best athletes in the world. There's no question about the amount of athletes and talents from Africa in any sports, but we do have the MMA. But the difference that you cannot compare the mixed martial art to a sport like football is because you have a widespread academies and opportunities and resources for them to and build that relationship with European football and European confederations and associations and make partnerships that can actually transfer and take the young generation of athletes to the European clubs and give them a bigger opportunity. All that system was built, and that is what's lacking in mixed martial art. And we're able to put that together with this event to start a route for 2024 and 2025, a huge African MMA development program in collaboration with the International Mixed Martial Art Federation, African Mixed Martial Art Federation, a lot of national federations within Africa, and the private sectors and governments in collaboration with Brave Combat Federation. But the athletes play a major role when they have to come out and perform and showcase what their talents are. And this is what the fighters like Nkosi, Wande is actually doing. But when you have an event of that magnitude and that meaning, where all the spotlight, and if you look at it, the amount of television networks that's actually been calling us for the last 2 to 3 days to say that we want to broadcast this live. And today I was in the hotel and I'm having call with television networks. They're like, oh, well, hold on, we want to have this content on every single network through Amazon and through some OTT platforms, and everybody wants to be a part of this because they've seen the significance. It's not just because how big the fight is, it's much more than that. And that moment, when you know that you're going to be the only fighter from your country representing, and you're going to be the god of that country, the fighter that's going to represent that country, and you decide, hold on, wait, I'm going to bring more of my countrymen and bring them up with me, so we all are going to be on the limelight and our country is going to be on the limelight. And that's what Kubanza have done. I mean, he's not just a scary athlete, he's much more than that.
Yeah, you can't even explain how scary this guy is. To say he's the scariest guy in Brave Combat Federation is an understatement. I mean, this guy is completely on another level. And again, like we're seeing in Africa, like Brave has done with every other country that we cultivate and grow, unlike any other organization in the world, we've seen that with training camps, with proper coaching, with proper conditioning, these guys are exploding. And we had talked about it earlier, that what we're doing is leveling the world out in their capabilities and their talents, and it's making it that much more competitive and fun for the world to watch as well.
This
it's really amazing.
This is a true story. Children used to check under their bed for monsters before they went to bed. Now they check under their bed for Kubanza. That's how scary this dude is.
No, he is.
His last opponent was a really, really tough guy, and he was out, I believe, for 3 to 4 minutes. One of the scariest times, I think, in all of our lives, where we actually thought someone may be in critical danger. But that gives a light to what you're actually doing when you agree to a fight with a guy like Kubanza, with that kind of skill,
you know you're
with
going to get
that kind of hunger. You know, even if you win, you're going to be in the hospital. That's the bottom line.
That's a scary thought. That's a scary thought. But one of the beauties of mixed martial arts has always been, when you look at the beginning of why we love mixed martial arts and why it was something special, was because we've seen some of the most scariest men, big dudes with the big mustache, and they walk in and you're like, oh my God,
guys like that. I mean,
yeah, you just get freaked out, and you're looking at these monsters, and I think it was UFC once, and these days when you're seeing these monsters come in, and then and what changed the whole story was always that 60 kg guy coming in and destroying all of these big guys. And that is where grappling and jiu-jitsu got so much respect. And this is something that I still am yet to see in Kubanza, where however scary, however strong you are, there's always a history that we should never forget. Is grappling is not about who's scary or strong. It is about someone who can break down that big,
nullify
scary tree, and that's where his opponent is going to put Kubanza into a test. And I think that that's a scary thought, and doesn't take anything away from Kubanza's power, strength, and how big and muscular he is. And I think that scientists need to actually take him and find out more about where humans can evolve to. But at the same time, we're talking about grappling, and there it's not always about strength. It is actually about dismantling you and making sure that it's all about breaking down your strength.
Well, his opponent, Kareem Rabi, is coming in with 7 wins as a professional. 5 of those wins are via submission. But in hunting for the submission, you have to close the distance. And in closing the distance, you leave yourself vulnerable to a knockout shot, which is what Kubanza has in spades. We've talked about not being able to see the grappling of Kubanza just yet. Why have we had to see it? Because he hasn't had to use it. This man, don't get me wrong, this guy isn't just a striker. He's a legitimate Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu purple belt, so he knows what he's doing with regards to grappling, but he hasn't had to show it yet, which is just indicative of how dominant he has been thus far in Brave Combat Federation.
No, definitely. And really, give all the credit to Cabanza for that, for sure. But I still believe that there is still that room where he's to be tested in his grappling skills and on the ground. And I don't know.
Good luck to the guy that tries to push that.
Exactly. I don't know if Kareem can do that, but I want to see someone putting him in that position. But the question is, can Kareem do that? And I think that he is coming in with those pedigrees and show that I'm going to be the guy that's going to make that happen. And I think if he's going to put Cabanza in that position where it's going to be about whose grappling is better, I really think that's going to be a test that we're yet to see if Cabanza can actually pass.
I have to say one more time on this beautiful podcast, Soma Fight Club. They have every kind of fighter there. They've got strikers, they've got grapplers, they've got buku wrestlers. They go back to strikers. They got a lot of strikers. Everything. I believe everything he needs. He's been trained to. And here's a crazy thing about him. As I said, spent time with Yusuf Webby. Webby has to fight him to get him out of training. He screams at him, "Stop training." He goes, "Okay, coach, I will." Coach wanders off, just "Go home, I'm going home." And he's right back there hitting mitts. He's right back there wrestling. So I do believe at Soma Fight Club that he's gotten what he needs, but we haven't seen it. We haven't seen it because when he ices somebody, they're iced. They just go out. There's no need to grapple on the ground and wrap your arms around somebody because they're asleep. Referee's already pulled you off. Right. So I do believe he's got those skills that we're talking about, and I do believe he doesn't need them.
You know, when you look at the African fighters, it's kind of like the Dagestani fighters, right? They really have another level of, they're going into this bout, and it's not about to show how good I am, to give you a good performance. They're there to end it. Yeah. They're there to make a statement, and they're there to show the world how it is done in their country. And we're feeling that with Africa as well. And these guys want to put a stamp, an exclamation point on their efforts.
And that's the last, and the last time we've seen actually Cabanza fighting on the ground was throwing hammer fists at somebody's head, and that was not the best thing to see. But at the same time, the confidence that they have on their abilities and what they are all about. I mean, if I'm gonna bring someone to do their debut in Brave, I would never suggest them to go and fight against the best amateur in the world. And if Cabanza have said that I'm confident that this is going to be one of the biggest upsets, he's put his teammate Lolia to fight against Ramzan Gitinov. And for me, I do give a lot of credit to the confidence that Cabanza have and the fighters in that territory. And I think you should have that because there's no other way for you to believe that you can be the best in the world if you're going to sit back and think, okay, the rest of the world are amazing, we're not at that level, so when it comes to the other part of the world, let's just stay back. But no, you have to start believing within that we are equal or better than the rest of the world. And that's the only way to start, not bow your head towards the others. So I do understand that, and that mentality is really something that I do give credit to Cabanza and what he's instilling in his teammates. But that is going to be a tough fight for Lolia against Ramzan. Coming into this fight, I think Ramzan, I was looking at this and I was saying that in 2023, the last year, we're talking about looking at Ramzan's first fight in 2024, and you look at his last year and see how he performed. We're looking at 8 fights in 1 year, and we're looking at fighting 8 times. In that 8 fights, he became the IMF World Champion, Powerful #1 champion, got the award for the best male fighter, turned pro, and won all 4 fights by finishes. And this is his last year's record, and this is what is coming into 2024, and that is a scary opponent to go against. But I do have to look at it and think of it and say that you go into professional from amateur, there is slightly a difference. There is a difference in the way the fights are built, the promotion, the media behind it, the preparation for one individual fighter. All that factor does add. Absolutely.
Everything's a step up.
It adds a lot of value. I mean, differences in terms of, it's not the same thing as going into an amateur fight, and a lot at stake as well if you lose a fight as well, right? With all that being said, when you look at Ramzan, I still see that, yes, amazing 2023, but I don't see a strong professional MMA experience there. I see 4 fights. Sure, Lolia might have only 3 fights, but I still feel like he spent more time in a professional cage than Ramzan Gitanov. And that do matter. Definitely there's a lot of skill behind it, but that do matter. But I also feel like Ramzan, this fight is going to be something special for him because he's traveling to Africa. He's never been in a pro fight that he's actually have to go out of his comfort zone and go fight in a country where he's flown over all the way from Dagestan, Bahrain, none of these places. He's in a different world, living a different life, and this is actually the first pro fight. And although you look at those numbers of past 4 fights, he doesn't really have the experience because, and to give credit to this, because he finished the fights early, but he still don't have the actual experience at a pro cage. And I think Lolia has come with so much more experience. His teammates behind him. How many DRC fighters are there? Yeah, almost 3 DRC fighters, I think, in this card, and there's going to be a team behind all of them. I think there's going to be a bigger team. It's almost like Ramzan having a great time fighting in Bahrain with his teammates and everybody around him. He's going to face the opposite feeling here, and I don't know where he is at that mental level when he's going to face that for the first time in his career.
Very interesting fight in prospect. This is by no means a gimme for Gitanov. You're talking in Lolia, 3-0 as a professional, 15-0 in kickboxing, 7-0 in boxing. So this isn't a guy that's just coming off the street here he's not a patsy by any stretch of the imagination. Yes, Ramzan Gitanov is the most successful amateur in the history of our sport. 3-time IMAF world champion, 2-time European champion, 1-time Asia Open champion, 1-time Super Cup champion. Those kind of statistics I don't think will ever be matched again in the scope of amateur MMA. But this is not amateur MMA, gentlemen. This is professional mixed martial arts that has so many different variables than the amateur game. So for me, again, I'm not going to get involved in who wins this fight. All I know is it'll probably be the toughest test in the professional career so far of Gitanov.
It's that's what Cabanza also mentioned, that it might be the biggest upset in our Brave Combat Federation history, and I think that if Lolia beats Ramzan, then yes, it is going to be the biggest upset we've seen.
Cabanza know what it takes to beat a man like Gitanov. In 2019, he beat him.
Absolutely.
So he knows exactly what it takes to beat
But
a
that,
fighter
but
like
that
Gitanov.
to give credit to, that Ramzan was nowhere close to what we see him today. We're talking about his second fight or so, where Ramzan didn't know anything about MMA at that point, and we're talking, and even the weight level. Like if you see Cabanza, he's gone a weight class up, and Ramzan had to go a weight class down from the time that they fought. And at that time, he didn't know what putting hands up was for, and he was like, that's what Ramzan was, and I think that defeat was one of the most important things for him, for Ramzan at that point, because I think I could be wrong, but I do feel like he had 2 losses at that point, back to back, I guess. One was Cabanza, but I don't know if it was Cabanza who's actually caused a fracture to his face.
I think it was the uppercut Cabanza hit him with. I think it was the uppercut caused the fracture.
Yeah, if it was him, and that gave him a long layoff to recover, and that's when we saw him actually training mixed martial art in Ramzan. Since then, he was never the same again, and we've seen what Ramzan was able to achieve to that point. So, but to fair point, Cabanza knows where the Dagestani and the Bahraini fighters come from. They know what it is, and there's no way that, and it's not just Cabanza. Everybody around the world knows when it comes to KHK athletes and when it comes to fighters who are from Bahrain or Dagestan and from Team KHK, what they have done around the world in all the promotions in the amateur world, and they know their fighting style. They're grinders. They have a fantastic background from wrestling and Sambo world. So that's very evident, and I know that Cabanza knows it too, and there's not many people who, when they fight a KHK athlete, it's not like we don't know where they're coming from. They know exactly what they're going to face, and they know exactly what's going to happen in the cage. So to have the confidence knowing that, I think we spoke about Cabanza as well, you got to close that distance to grapple with them, you got to close the distance to use the techniques, and when you have those pedigrees from kickboxing to boxing, at the experience that Lolia has, I think it's going to be something that Ramzan has to really be a little bit careful of.
We have to repeat this again for Brave Nation. I mean, Gittinoff is the most decorated, again, amateur in the history of our sport. Say that again. He's the most decorated amateur in the history of our sport. And he's fighting here in Brave Combat Federation and going to prove that he not only was successful as an amateur, he's going to maintain that as a pro. So this is the biggest test of his life. But I mean, it just shows the level of competition that we have here at Brave Combat Federation. There is no one cultivating better fights, more competition, and more country versus country, as we said from day one, for worldwide bragging rights than Brave Combat Federation.
Absolutely. And to just add to that, to Ramzan Gittinoff, we talk about the best amateur in the world. But and that's the interesting part. We talk about combat sambo, we talk about jiu-jitsu background, kickboxing, Muay Thai, Sanda, we have some of the best traditional martial arts legends in Brave Combat Federation roster, you know, if you look at it. But with all that being said, Ramzan is also going to be that example and a test for everybody to look and ask this very important question. Do you need to have a great traditional background of combat sambo or jiu-jitsu or XYZ, or do you have to be having a traditional background of mixed martial art? Your traditional martial art tomorrow is going to be called mixed martial art, and if you have that, is that a bigger experience, a better experience than any other sport that is close to mixed martial art instead of having mixed martial art itself?
I believe he's the next evolutionary step in mixed martial arts. Yes, it's great to have a background in likes of Wushu Sanda. We've seen Mohammed do great things. However, if instead of your background is a traditional martial art and you have to transition to MMA, what if your background was MMA right from the very beginning? That makes the likes of Gittinoff so dangerous. And that's why I believe he's legitimately the next evolutionary step in what a fighter can be, should be, and will be.
Yeah. And would you, because I've had a call from someone recently and they were like, could you do me a favor? Yeah, I need few athletes from Brave Combat Federation who's come from a traditional martial arts background. And I was sitting there and I was thinking, could I put Ramzan there and say that his traditional background martial art is MMA? Or should I give...
That's exactly the point I'm making.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And would you, can we do that now? Is it hard to say that mixed martial art is...
Is that a legitimate pathway to say someone's background is?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. In short, yes, you absolutely can. When you ask the average person in the United States, or honestly, if you ask the average person anywhere in the world, name some martial arts, nobody's going to say wrestling. They're going to say, karate, kung fu, maybe judo, which is a form of wrestling. But the original sport for all human beings is wrestling, and it goes back to way before we were human beings. If you watch two lizards fighting each other, they're digging for underhooks. You watch bears fight. Bears are digging for underhooks. Wrestling is not just fundamentally human beings, it's like fundamental to life. Maybe we're amoebas and we were round, we couldn't dig for an underhook, but as soon as we got limbs in any form, we started digging for underhooks on each other. Wrestling is the original martial art. And then the Russians took all of their indigenous martial arts and they added some striking in there. They a guy named the name's Shepiev, name's escaping me. They drew in some striking and they created what I believe is the best basis for mixed martial arts, and that is the Russian art of Sambo. So yeah, is Sambo a traditional martial art? Yes, absolutely. And in my opinion, is it the best traditional martial arts basis for mixed martial arts? Yes, absolutely. Bring it.
But would you say that now with the amateur background that we're having with mixed martial arts,
MMA as a foundation sport?
Yeah, can we say that
I think so.
my traditional martial art is MMA,
Yeah.
mixed martial art, not Sambo, not Jiu-Jitsu, none of that. I'm a mixed martial artist, and that's my traditional background. Why? Because that's the only thing that I've done from day one.
Right.
And we've not seen the result of, so even today, I like when you think about it, if you see a combat Sambo world champion fighting against a mixed martial art world champion, amateur both, would subconsciously I would still give credit to the combat sambo world champion for some reason, because I think that's been going on for 20, 30, 40, 50 years.
Because you're conditioned to do so.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
But that's why I think that Ramadan is going to be a case study where we're going to put him out there against any traditional martial arts
Right.
from their background and say that his traditional background is MMA. This
Yeah.
kid comes from not wrestling background. He's grappled because he lived around grapplers, but he's not a wrestler. He's not a combat sambo background. He doesn't have a jiu-jitsu. He's not competed anywhere. He's a 15, 16-year-old kid that has started mixed martial art.
The next evolutionary step in the mixed martial arts fire.
Yeah.
I
But
believe
who
so.
wins? The sambo fighter or the mixed martial arts
The mixed martial
amateur
arts.
fighter? Do you think so?
For me, yeah.
Yeah.
The competition level for years
of the
of
game.
evolution
Yeah,
of competition, that's where the only question for me is like, I look at combat sam, and that's what, if you look at the competition of amateur MMAF amateurs today compared to the amateur MMA competition 10 years back, it was nothing compared to today you're seeing the best fight against the best. What's going to happen to that in 20 years, the competition? And that's what's happened with other sports when you're looking at combat sambo and kickboxing and Muay Thai. You go to the amateur level and you're going to see beasts and monsters fighting there because of years of evolution. And that's where you think and you're like, oh, so those guys with the level of competition might be able to be better than the MMA guy. But then you look at the MMA guys like Ramazan and you're like, I don't see weakness. And if that guy, you bring him into this sport that he's been doing every single day, and you're like, oh, but he might have a problem with the grappling experience, the elbows, and maybe the cage control and all that atmosphere. This guy's been doing that for 34 fights, and I mean, it's crazy experience that this individual is going to get. And if somebody comes to that sport, I think it's something else. I think that's something to be put to test to, and the test of that is going to be Ramazan. Ramazan, every fight is going to be a test for
He's
MMA.
essentially representing the entire sport with every
Yeah.
fight he
Yeah.
has,
Yeah.
which is an incredible weight to bear upon your shoulders. But if ever there was a fighter who is capable of representing our sport and putting his flag upon the precipice of the mountain that is mixed martial arts, it's Ramzan Gatanov.
That's going to be, and that is why every time he fights in a card, for me, it's much more than just an individual fighting. It's so much more, and that's why for me it was interesting that the light rotation, when you had the likes of Mahsen Saifi or Ramzan Gitna, when you're seeing the top amateur athletes from combat sports, the highest level, and they're going to compete against each other, and you're going to know where MMA stands when you come from the MMA background. You
He's
know?
the potential to be the standard bearer.
Yeah.
He's the potential to be the standard bearer for our sport, which is incredible. And a big statement to make for such a young fighter at 4-0 as a professional. I firmly believe he is capable.
And the main event is the pioneer of IMAF, two-time world champion,
Right.
and he's fighting against pound for pound #1 African champion Nkosi, right? And that's our main event. So the best bantamweights in the world are guys who came from that amateur background.
That
So-
developmental program, yeah.
Absolutely. And the one who's finished that program and become a doctor in it is Ramzan Gitanov.
Yeah.
How good is that guy?
Yeah.
You know? And that is why he deserves to carry that flag. See, we have Ramzan Gitanov fighting, but again, it is a little bit emotional to fight against Lolia, who's going to be his only option to take revenge over Kubanza's loss. But Kubanza says that it's going to be one of the biggest upset in the MMA history. So that's going to be how Brave Combat Federation 82 is going to start. And it's going to definitely...
What a way to start the card, man.
Absolutely, and it's going to end with that biggest question that we're all going to ask about: is Shorty Torres, the Shorty Torres that we knew about, is he going to come back with that mentality that we think is lost in him a little bit, and is he going to come back and showcase that everything that is good about Shorty Torres that we always loved about him, the strength, the technique, all of that? Is he going to bring it back and rediscover that, or is Nkosi Ndebele just going to keep destroying every single one in front of them and to prove that he's not just the king, he's going to be king of the kings every time he keeps fighting, and he's going to be better and better every time. And that's hopefully going to be the final chapter, and I hope it is. I hope it is. But that's the fight card. It's a fantastic event, and I can't wait for it. The co-main event, Huende Nazarov, that's going to shape a lot to do with what's going to come up. And you have the final chapter in the main event, but the story is already
You have a new
good.
chapter starting in the
Starting
co-main event,
immediately in the co-main event.
And remember
Absolutely.
when we started with Brave Combat Federation 8 years ago, if someone were training in the gym, we'd look at kids, oh, they started at 14, 13, wow, 15. Now they're starting at 5. That's the evolution of, or even younger. That's what we're talking about, the evolution of the sport.
Yeah.
And how these athletes have acclimated and grown through mixed martial arts.
And their background is solely MMA,
Exactly.
which is incredible.
Absolutely. Now it's going to be a big start for a new chapter for African mixed martial art. I'm sure this is going to be a beginning of something that we're going to see, like Craig, that you mentioned, that in 10 years' time you're going to see African MMA dominate the world MMA, African MMA athletes, and I think that we'll be proud and happy to be a part of it. We believe that African MMA is going to play a major role in the global mixed martial art industry, and we are here to make that happen. And we're not going to be looking at 25, 26, 27 and say that we're going to go into Africa because it's a fantastic market. We're going to go out there to build the infrastructure, to build the development program, not just take athletes and compete internationally. We've done that, not just introduce events, we've done that. And this is going to be something much more bigger than that. We're going to create the foundation where these athletes can actually train and become the best in the world and be part of an industry where we have the MMA media industry, where we have the managers and the academies combined together in a strong regulated format that can collaborate with the international regulations and be a part of one big structure that we always talk about. So that is what we're looking into the African mixed martial art with this event. It is a big event for African MMA and a big fun for the African MMA fans to watch a fight card like this. So guys, let's get this done in 2 days' time. What was it, 31st country, 30th country? You guys have been
31, yeah.
31 countries.
Unbelievable.
And 32 is coming up in 2 weeks.
Also, the 14th European country does the Brave event, which eclipses all other supposed global MMA federations. So, big deal in Europe. As the only European sitting here, huge deal for me, huge deal for European MMA.
Definitely, and I think that Europe is going to be another continent that we're going to be very, very active in 2024 and 2025.
A show in Ireland would be a great idea.
I'm just saying.
You got Gerard Burns, we got Phil Campbell. We've got a lot of reasons to go to
I
Ireland.
feel sorry for Jared Burns being mentioned in the same breath as me. Sorry, Jared.
But yeah, I think
The future looks good. The
yeah,
future looks
let's
really
make
good.
that happen. Definitely, guys. Thank you again. Let's until the next time.
Thank you.
Yeah.